As simple and as silly as it sounds, committing to learn about your wife daily is great advice often overlooked. If you can commit to genuinely listening to and honoring your partner, things can improve in your relationship. What up, Black Man? I'm Jamal Calpin, and welcome to the Beneficial Black Man channel, where we focus on overcoming gray mediocrity to become beneficial for our community by discussing faith, creativity, personal development, and mental and emotional health management. How y'all doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're protecting your mental, finding time for an emotional release valve, and continuing to strive to become beneficial. All right, for this episode, I got a disclaimer. I'm sharing what has helped me and what is helping me currently. I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not a relationship coach. I'm just giving some nuggets that I hope would help you. Every person and every relationship is different. I will say, if you're single or even married, commit to making sure you're your healthiest and whole self. So whether you're dating somebody, whether you're not dating somebody, whether you're married, whatever, make sure that you're okay first to the best of your ability. Get therapy, take care of yourself, and keep growing in your emotional and mental well-being. Doing that will ultimately pay off in your relationship in a whole. And at the end of the day, as long as you're becoming your best self, that is still a win. So I just wanted to say that I honestly kind of shy away from wanting to talk about relationships because there's a lot of energy and information, particularly in our community, discussing relationships between men and women and all that stuff. I think it's important. Relationships are definitely important. Um, there are more relationships than just romantic relationships, though. But in this nugget that I want to share with you all, it is definitely about romantic relationships. Okay, so the scripture that has helped me the most in my relationship is First Peter chapter 3 verse 7. And it reads, "Likewise," this is the King James version. "Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them, your wife, your spouse, according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered." This part right here, dwelling with them according to knowledge. According to knowledge. So, I, sometimes when you're reading the Bible, you read stuff and you can read stuff a whole lot of times and it never really like sticks in. And, when I read over the scripture, it seems obvious, but the obvious things are sometimes missed. We can be trying so hard to find the most intense or difficult thing when the simplest option is the best option. So, trying to fix a relationship or grow and become a better version of yourself or whatever, sometimes we're looking for the hardest thing to do because we think that's what's going to garner the most results, like the quickest fix. But it's not always that. Sometimes it's the simplest thing. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, just stop eating that, or stop drinking so much soda, stop drinking so much coffee, or whatever. It can be simple things. But I think it's part of human nature that we think to get success and for things to improve, they have to be hard, they have to be difficult. In all of my preparation for marriage, reading books, going to counseling, like premarital counseling and all that stuff, studying, watching sermons and all that stuff, this one scripture has had the most impact on me. As a believer, I understand the more common scriptures or directions when it comes to marriage. Love your wife like Christ loved the church. Be willing to die for your bride. Provide for your family or be considered an infidel. Wash your spouse in the water of the word. Please and honor your wife. Love your wife like you love yourself, which is actually an incredible scripture too. It's kind of a doozy if you want to like really get into it. But this scripture has helped shift my perspective on relationships so much. And I think what's powerful about it is it's so antithetical to a lot, if not all, of the relationship advice that's given on the internet. The scripture forces you to actually listen to, care for, and consider your wife or your partner. The tricky part, I believe, is that men, generally speaking, can take all the advice given and apply it for selfish gain. There are lots of quote unquote nice guys and even red pills who will do anything for the nookie. You know, they'll do anything. I get it. I'm human too. But what I've learned to be the greater reward is the genuine happiness, peace, and growth of my partner. I get it. Yes, sex is nice. But knowing that you've had a positive and beneficial impact on your lady means so much more. That requires changing our perspective on relationships, on women, and even sex. Loving your wife according to knowledge requires you to engage intimately with your partner. It requires you to ask questions. It requires you to be honestly interested. It requires you to be patient. It requires you to be understanding. It requires you to look at your partner with fresh eyes daily. It's simple advice, and the reality is, everything simple isn't always easy. The difficulty comes when you have to stop being selfish, impatient, and prideful. And this is definitely something that I've struggled with. Like, even if I am trying to make an effort to honor my wife more or be more considerate, it can be in times when I'm trying to do something that I think is more important at that moment. And I have to really check with myself. Is it really that big of a deal? Can't I just like give her 15, 20 minutes of my time to help her out with something or to have a conversation with her? Yeah, I can do that. I can always come back to watching My Hero Academia. I can just push pause. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Um, what the big deal is actually, making sure my wife feels seen, valued, and heard. Um, it requires you to unlearn and let go of advice you may have gotten from other men or previous relationships. When you're in a relationship with a woman, you're in a relationship with her. Don't compare her to anyone else. Because something may have worked with your last partner does not mean it will work with this partner. Women are not cloned copies of one another. They are individual people with personal experiences and personal needs. And I mean, again, the same can be said for men. Side note, also don't assume women are dumb. Like a lot of relationship gurus on the internet want to try to convince men of, who tell you to use mind games and manipulation to get women. That's that that that's all crap. It's crap. It's actually evil, and it's really quite literally manipulation. If you have to trick, manipulate, or coerce a woman to be with you, it's not the woman with the issue. It's you, bro. Like, really. Continuing. Sure, there may be some similarities between women, like the desire to feel safe, seen, heard, valued, understood, protected, and not just physically, intellectually and emotionally engaged, and the list can go on and on. But when you're really caring for your partner, your spouse, it requires you to love them according to knowledge, understanding them specifically, your bride, your wife, your girlfriend, your person, whoever. It requires you to get to know them intimately, deeply, and repeatedly, over and over and over and over again. Um, I wish, I wish this was something I knew and put into practice earlier in my marriage. Because the reality is, if you make the space for a woman to be honest and expressive with you, she'll give you the cheat codes to how to serve her. Sure, it'll take some work. It requires establishing trust. It requires asking questions. It requires listening very carefully. It requires trial and error. It requires time and energy, and yes, even vulnerability on your part. In the end, though, the level of connection, intimacy, and progress that is developed is worth it. Because I believe every relationship can be amazing if you put the right time, resources, and energy into it. And a big component of that is related to this verse, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. It also ties to you doing the internal work as men to become your best self too. It requires us to do work on ourselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And at the end of the day, we always have to come back to ourselves and make sure that we're okay. Because again, we can't control the other party in our relationship, but we can do our best to make sure that we're showing up to the best of our ability for the person that we care about. It takes time. Personally, I'm not in a perfect place on my journey or in my relationship either, but I can see the benefits of applying this relationship advice to my own life. Take time to be genuinely interested in your partner. and learn how to serve her well with that knowledge. And this goes beyond sex. Don't even start with that. Like, I know a lot of people, a lot of guys, are kind of looking for tricks and things that you can do in the sheets and romantically and stuff like that. Sure, I get it, but focus on serving her emotionally, mentally, and spiritually first. And keep in mind, every skill can be developed. Every skill. So just like you can learn tricks to help you in a romantic and intimate way, you can develop your emotional intelligence. You can develop your communication skills, and you can develop your romance game. And again, I'm saying this to you, but I'm also saying it to myself. These are things that you can constantly learn and study and get better at. There are tons of books, tons of podcasts, YouTube channels, resources out there to help grow in these areas. It'll help a lot more than you may think. Seriously. So I want to encourage you, consider this verse. And more specifically, consider that part of that verse of 1 Peter 3:7. Dwelling with, living with, relating to your person, your wife, your spouse, according to knowledge. So understanding them, learning them, growing close to them, and taking time to express interest in them and just know who they are. It takes time, it takes effort, but it's ultimately, in the long run, it'll be beneficial. Seriously. Black man, you're called for more than mediocre living. You're here for a purpose. To live for glory and for good. Let's do the work and keep choosing to become beneficial for our community. Protect your mental, make time for an emotional release valve, and keep striving to become beneficial. I believe in you, black man. Go make something for yourself, make something of yourself, and make something for glory and for good. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Yo, I realize life can feel like trash sometimes. It's like you keep catching L after L, and nothing you do seems to make life any better. I've been there. Disappointed, frustrated, tired, beat down, just feel like giving up. What I've learned is that all you need to make it through the ups and downs of life is just a little bit of help. So I want to share with you the tools that I've learned to turn my bad days into good days. These simple pieces of wisdom have changed my life, and I know they'll change your life too. So go get a copy of my new book, Make Bad Days Good, a set of simple tools to take control of your life, on Amazon today. Listen, things can get better.